And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
Because all the blessings that we're going to get, which is entailing the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah the 60th chapter, I'm going to start at the 10th verse and read on down. It says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. So the sons of strangers, that's talking about the actual strangers, the other nations, shall build up thy walls. We're going to have them in slavery. So they're going to be building the kingdom of heaven, because we're not building nothing. We're not lifting a hand to move nothing. It says, for in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. That's talking about the actual Gentiles. We're going to take all of their substance, and that their kings may be brought.
And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Verse 13. And the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. So the land of Israel, the land of Jerusalem, is going to be made glorious. It's going to be made glorious once again. The kingdom is going to be built up. We had a taste of that during the time of Solomon's reign, which was for about 40 years. Verse 14. The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet. And they shall call thee the city of the Lord. The word Zion means monument, the monument of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shall suck the breast of kings, meaning we're going to take all their substance. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord thy power, the Lord and thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring thee gold, and for iron I will bring thee silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. And I will make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. The sun shall no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and the power thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, meaning our kingdom is not going to go down. In other words, once we get back in power, we're going to be in power forever. The sun is never going to go down on our kingdom again. The sun is never going to set on our kingdom. We're going to always shine, and we're going to always be in that glory once we get into the kingdom of heaven. There's no more going back into slavery under the other nations. Esau's not going to rise back up and put us in captivity. Ham, Japheth, Ishmael, none of the other nations are going to rise up and take us down ever again. When we get on top this time, we're going to remain on top. Neither shall thy moon withdraw itself, for the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. So no more mourning, no more crying, no more vexation of spirit, no more weeping, no more hopelessness because of the condition that we're in as Israelites right now. Verse 21, thy people also shall be all righteous, they shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. Verse 22, a little one shall become 1,000. This is in the kingdom. So what is this talking about? We're going to have sex. Again, like I said, The two-thirds that are going to pass in this destruction, the two-thirds are going to come back through the one-third that make it. The Lord said, two-thirds shall be cut off and die, and the third will I bring through the fire. It says, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time.
All right. All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shah Bahashim Rakapadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards young brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Shai. All right. And I'm getting into it this morning, dealing with morning news and prophecy. All right. And the war saga, continues, just continue, to stay on the tail, on the trail, of this narrative, dealing with, these small hats, America, Iran, Russia, all the major players according to prophecy, man. Okay. And this is why, we keep track of these things because these are all major players and key players when it comes to prophecy. Okay. Because according to prophecy, this is where, all right, the powder keg is going to explode. That's going to lead into this third world war, and it's going to go nuclear. Okay, America going to become a desert. Yahweh Shah is going to return. Okay, now with that being said, we have to understand, everything is in the Lord's timing. Okay, because we see things get intense. We see a lot of rumors. Matter of fact, which we always go into it. Okay, we always get into this precept, but it's speaking. you know, because we don't, we want to hear something new. All right, I'm quite sure Genesis is cooking something fresh out this pot. All right, if you want to hear something new, all right, I'm gonna tell them what them niggas, you know, and men like them, okay, which allow us to say anything, but we deal with what's happening, okay, as these prophecies, speak real time. We go into the scriptures concerning, all right, for the times that we're in, okay, not to be seen or be cute. But this is Jeremiah 51 and 46. It says, "And least your heart faint, and you fear from the rumor there shall be heard in the land." And our heart goes into our mind, becoming weak, because we don't fear, all right, these wars that are constantly being talked about. Okay, there's a lot of people, they have a mindset of, and they just hope that there's not a World War III. They hope, that America and Russia don't get into it, America and Iran or whatever, America, China. You see, a lot of people, they hope for no war because they want this place to continue. Okay. But as we've, been awakened to the truth where we have the complete opposite expectation because we know this place being destroyed, okay, is necessary for us to go into the kingdom, man, for righteousness to be established in the earth, for us to come into the promises and the blessings, get these new bodies, okay, shed these old bodies, man, get back to life, get back to living, enjoying, family, men, Israelite men can enjoy their families, their wives, their children, rule the earth in righteousness with Yahweh Shai, okay? And we know before we get to that point, okay, that the earth has to go into war, All right, because this is the war in which Yahweh Shai is going to conquer the earth in righteousness, man. And this is the driving force behind us constantly going into these things. You see, and it says, "And least your heart faint, and ye fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that, in another year, shall a rumor come, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler." So we're going to constantly be hearing these circulating stories, okay, dealing with this war. What these nations plan on doing. The moves being made. The he said, she said. Okay, so we're going to constantly, hear these things, and we go into these things. Okay, but it's going to be a continuation of hearing these rumors, and then it's going to come to a point to where these nations they got to hit because they got to. Okay, it ain't a matter of if, it's when. Okay, and like I say, we'll see things, get intense. Okay, then we'll see, backpedaling. They get off an off ramp. Okay, they'll have some exchanges for a few days, kind of feel each other out. Okay, and then they go back to their corner. And this is all, the process because our patience, is on trial as well. You know, our patience is on trial during this process as we're watching these things unfold. Okay, so let's go here to the book of Second Ezra, the fourth chapter, and then I got quite a few little videos where you're jumping around just to kind of keep us in the loop, of what's going on, across the water. So it said this is Second Ezra 4:28. It says, "But it's concerning the things whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee. For the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come." Okay, so the evil was sown, back in the garden. And this is the fruits of the wickedness that was sown way back in the garden, man. And they're gonna go into it. But see, when Ezra was inquiring about the end, because Ezra wanted the end back then. All right, so the archangel Uriel is letting you know, like, look, the evil has been sown in the earth already, but the destruction ain't come. Okay, because wickedness, all right, has to fulfill a certain, you see, a certain measure as well. Before the judgment comes. Because so as we await, this third world war, we're going to see, wickedness increase. Okay, degeneracy, rebellion, okay, against Yahweh by Shema Shai. We're going to see these things increase, okay, until the time of judgment. It says that therefore, verse 29 says, "Therefore, that which is not sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good." Okay, and what's going to turn this place upside down? Okay, what's going to sweep this place? All right, like a besom, as it says in the scripture, it's going to be war, and this war is going to go nuclear, man. Okay, and that's going to be the uprooting of this man's kingdom, his rulership. Okay, the return of Yahushua and those chariots, man, getting busy on the militaries of the earth. Okay, so we're watching the build up to this place, being rooted out, man. This kingdom being rooted out. Okay, being swept off the earth, man. America being completely, okay, erased off the map, man. You see, verse 30 said, "For the grain of evil seed have been sown in the heart of Adam from the beginning, and how much ungodliness have it brought up until this time, and how much shall it bring forth until the time of threshing come?" Okay, so we're looking at, from the time of Adam until now. Okay, we're in the fruits of their wickedness. You see, this the results of that conversation between the serpent and Eve. We're living in it. Okay, you want to know what the serpent and Eve talked about in the garden? Okay, just go to World Star. Okay, go to TikTok. Okay, go go through the neighborhood. You see, this the results of it, man. All right. Then Adam, he fell. He partook in it. And then the sons of God fell, and we failing all the way here. You see, like you falling from, say you fall from a building, then you hit the bottom, you eventually hit the ground. Well, this is the ground, okay? And this is what the Lord's getting ready to judge, man. Okay, because outside of the remnant whom the Lord, has begun the restoration process, man, our people are at rock bottom. Okay, you look at like how can you get too much lower than sexy red, a young boy, Lil Uzi Vert, Lil Nas X. Like how can you get below that? Okay, our people have reached ground zero. So now it's a time for a great reset. Okay, and this great reset is going to be done through war. All right, the Lord's going to reserve a remnant of Israel. Okay, to bring back the rest of this nation in righteousness, man. Okay, understanding why we're here, man. We're here. This is real live nation building. It begins with this wisdom, must be rooted in wisdom and understanding. Okay, and the remnant that's delivered. That's why I said, little one shall become 1,000, a small one, a strong nation, man. Okay, because Yahweh Shai, he's going to come and take down the enemies and conquer the heathen. And he's going to, provide the atmosphere for us to be fruitful. All right, to multiply and be fruitful in righteousness, man. Okay, so we have to understand what we're a part of and what we're seeing the build up to. Okay, the war is just a phase. Okay, of the Lord fulfilling His promises, man, to His people. Okay, and we're seeing this thing build up. So verse 31 said, "Ponder now by thyself how great fruit of wickedness the grain of evil seed have brought forth, and when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a floor shall they feel, man, in this war." Okay, and the return of Yahushua, okay, is gonna fill the earth with bodies. Okay, I just want uh we have to understand that this earth is gonna be, this war, so like is gonna fill the planet Earth with bodies everywhere, man. Plus, where Yahushua, if a brother want to get that in Jeremiah 25 and 34, 30, is it Jeremiah 25, 34 and 35, I want to say. Okay, because the Lord's going to come through in their chariot threshing. Yahushua and those angels, man, they're going to be putting shit down, man. It's going to be a slaughter. Okay, so we're seeing the build up to this great slaughter Yahushua is coming back with. you know, we speak about the hypersonics and the Mach 10 missiles, man. But Yahushua is coming with something above that to judge this earth, man. Okay, so we're watching the build up to it. This is what we're watching the build up to. This is why hey, everything is on the line with this conflict. You see the the Venezuela and the Nigeria, okay, nigga talking about Cuba and Greenland. That really don't even they don't even factor in. Okay, the main stage for World War III is these small hats in Iran. Okay, when they lock up, okay, when they really lock up, you know, this is what it's going to lead to. It's going to lead all the way. It's going to be a chain of events that's going to lead to Yahushua. Okay, so I say, well, brother, could then Jeremiah 25 and 34. Okay, because Yahushua is coming back to do the threshing. Mm. Uh, because the Heavenly Father has a depopulation agenda. Okay, it's a lot of spirits that's finna get out of here. You know, it's 33. So like, you have a brother post that Jeremiah 25 and 33. Okay, so let's finish this. It says, and when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a floor shall they feel? Then I answered and said, how and when shall these things come to pass? Wherefore are our years few and evil? So Esdras is inquiring about, okay, when it's going to happen. And I'm hearing you speak on these things, but when? Okay. So, Esdras, he was real, You could tell he was agitating, irritable, but he was inquiring. Okay. He like, we through down here, man. We need little mortal bodies. And, you look at Jake. Okay. Jake just constantly being influenced by wickedness. You see? So Ezra's like, man, when that change gonna come? When the judgment gonna come? Verse 34 says, he answered me, saying, do not thou hasten above the most highest, for thy haste is in vain to be above him, for thou hast much exceeded. Okay? So we can't haste above the most high. We'll be doing too much. We'll be hasting in vain. So it's all a thing of time. We see these things happening, but we also have to understand it's all in the Lord's time. We see these things intensify, but we know, we stay ready. You know, the scripture says our bags are packed at the door. Okay, ready to leave, man. Okay, make you ready to the battle. Be ye even as pilgrims upon the earth. So our bags are packed at the door. Okay, that's the mindset we in. But then we have to understand, it's a thing of patience, the Lord's timing, because everybody's patience is on trial as well. Okay, because I know brothers remember what about 6 years ago, when Trump assassinated General Soleimani, okay, the Iranian general, which he was a hero in that whole region. I think like 10 million people came to the funeral, so he was beloved over there, man. And we thought then it was finna go down. You see, we thought we was out of here, man. We had no idea about 2026, man. When he did that in 2020, we thought for sure this thing was finna kick off. Okay. But as we follow these things and, through time we get experience, as we're becoming, mature in the spirit, we understand that it's all the Lord's time, you know. So um I'm gonna jump down to verse 37. This the point. It says, by measure hath he measured the times, and by number hath he numbered the times, and he doth not move nor stir them until the said measures be fulfilled, man. You know, so everything has to be fulfilled in its own measure. Okay, the MOTB, Jacob's trouble, and then the war, then Yahweh shot. Okay, so everything has to be fulfilled in this measure. He's not going to move anything too early. You know, it's all in the point in time. It's already set up. Okay, so let's go here. I got uh yeah, the brother pushed that for me with the water, bro. So let's go here though. Let me go ahead and pull this up and get that precept. Yeah, so it's a few things going on, with the latest. We're gonna get into these things. But let's read this. The brother got this. The brother Yashima tribe of Judah, Jeremiah 25:33. It says, and the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground. Okay, so Yahweh Shah, when he comes, he's coming, all right, to depopulate. Okay, Yahweh Shah is coming to send a lot of people back. Okay, they say return to sender. Okay, so World War III is going to be a major time of judgment, man. You know, and the earth of and the slain of the Lord shall be from one end of the earth to the other, man. All right, so let's go into the happiness. Dealing with this back and forth with Iran, in the West, the small hats in America. Now, as of late, because supposedly they were supposed to it was rumored that America was supposed to attack Wednesday night, okay, but then they backpedaled. Now, on the flip side, America will play like they backpedaling and to get you to be disarmed, okay, to get the other side to be lax, and then come with a strike. So we're not ruling out, a strike in the near future, days, weeks, okay? But eventually we know they gotta do it according to prophecy. We're just going into the right now, the coming days and weeks. You know, you can't rule out, America and these small hats because they say one thing and do another, you know, because they did this last time before the 12-day war. America was supposed to have peace talks with Iran. So Iran was lax, okay? And the small hats came with a surprise attack and did some damage to Iran, okay? So now Iran not falling for that again. See, the one thing about a gimmick, because the small hats in the American military is very gimmicky, okay? So one thing when you do a gimmick, you only got one time to do it, okay? When you're talking about war. So they can't pull that off again. You see? So now the Lord is pushing it to where these small hats in America, they just gonna have to, hey, they gonna have to gird up their loins like a man. They gonna have to just go over there and see about them. Okay. The gimmicks, the most high tired of these niggas playing gimmicks, blowing up phones and scooters and you know, staging protests. Nigga, you go take your ass to war, man. Okay, stop goddamn playing. You see? But these last 48 hours, there's been a lot of speculation of why America backtracked, So we're just gonna go into a few clippings, and expound in the spirit, So let's play this.
They inflamed the situation. And the plan, I believe now, watching what has happened, the plan was that the government was going to be put into such a degree of chaos that when we launched the military strikes yesterday, then that would have brought the whole house down. Well, it failed. The operation to destabilize Iran started collapsing last Friday. Iranian security forces, they discovered the Starlink terminals. Russia and China were helping them with electronic warfare countermeasures to block those. And as they started blocking those, the people stopped showing up in the streets. And the IRGC and the Bajis, they started cracking down on the ones who were carrying out violence against Iranians. So what happened yesterday was also, it was exacerbated by that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey both told the United States, you're not flying over our territory to do this. And I think part of that was pressure that the Russians was bringing on to all of them.
So remember, what the scriptures say, brother want to get that in 2nd Ezra 15 verses 28 through 30. So we talked about the dragons of Arabia. So those Arab nations alike, they told America, look, y'all not going to fly over, okay, our country and carry these attacks out. See, one thing about what made America military, what gave them advantage is that they was able to operate out of all these different countries, because they can leave an aircraft carrier, do an airstrike in Iraq, and then land in the military base in, Qatar. Okay, they can leave. Okay, Israel, do an airstrike in Syria, and then land in the military base. Okay, in Turkey. Okay, but what we're seeing happening now is these nations in the region, like, look, y'all, because they don't want to be associated with America because they know this gonna be a hell of a backlash. So they telling America, these certain Arab countries and even Turkey, Gomar, Ezekiel 38. Okay, so these nations are telling America, look, you can't use our country to do this, man. We're not allowing you to use our airspace. You can't land your jets here because they gonna be hot. Okay, because they not finna, they can't just go and do airstrikes on Iran. Because see what Iran been doing. See, going back to the genius of Iran, like I say, the hell with Iran, but the Most High is using them for a purpose. So when these small hats would do airstrikes, okay, on Iranian officials, or when they would do when they carried out their airstrike in June. What Iran does, wherever that fighter jet came from, that's what get attacked. That's what get blew up. They blew up a lot of airstrips. Wherever those fighter jets will come from Israel, wherever they returned back to, wherever they came from and returned back to, that became a target. Okay? So these other nations, they know this. See, Iran been sending messages in that region. Okay, these nations ain't just backpedaling for nothing. They've been watching this back and forth, and they know, okay, look, y'all can't stage no jets over here. Y'all can't use our airspace. Okay? Because Iran gonna fill that airspace with missiles. So they're like, look, y'all can't do that. See, America's used to just having, all these different nations at their disposal to where they can carry out, these missions. All right, these military missions. But what you're seeing now, these nations are bagging up like, look, y'all can't do that no more. We ain't trying to get in the midst, okay, of this, because this one gonna be different. Okay, and these nations know that Russia been supplying, all right, China been supplying Iranian with weaponry nonstop for 7 months. So these nations know this. Okay, they're not looking at CNN and Fox News and Megyn Kelly. They over there. They know what's going on. So they telling America like, look, man, y'all can't do that here. So that's basically what's happening. Then let's say that the propaganda failed, with the protest. It was heated for a moment. Now that's been quelled. So now, all right, they missed their window because they thought, okay, we're gonna strike while this major protest, and the whole regime just gonna topple. Okay, which that's a gimmick. There's that's a gimmick. That's a cheap way of trying to win a war. Okay, and it ain't working because the Lord wants these nations to go to war. Okay,
because what Russia knows is that it's now invested heavily in Iran, as is China. They're not going to let the United States attack Iran and just try to destroy it. Now, the other element that's at play here is that 45% of the daily production of oil in the world comes out of the Persian Gulf. Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz in a heartbeat. Once that's closed, all of a sudden, 45% of the oil that's out in the world no longer there. What does that do to the price of oil? It sends it into into space. Gosh. And it would be good for Russia because now the price of oil is $150 a barrel, but it's going to have a devastating impact on other economies, both in causing inflation and forcing industries to shut down. So this very complex picture, but this simplistic crap that was being spun in the West that all we got to do is, put enough pressure and the Ayatollah is going to flee to Moscow. Nonsense.
Right, but
what if starting a dropshipping business didn't feel so complicated anymore? With AutoDS, everything works in just a few clicks.
Russia did prop up Syria and the Assad government for so long until they just couldn't do it anymore. So is this the delicate balance?
Iran's completely different from Syria. Okay, Syria never was, a factor. Okay, militarily, it was just strategically a location for Iran, to funnel weapons, to Hezbollah, which they still have those routes, certain routes that they got because those routes are ran by families. And that's another thing in the East, man. They get a lot done because they operate, using families. That's another lesson for another day. But Iran is completely different from Syria. Completely. Okay. Iran is 20 times the military might of Syria,
By which Iran hangs in the fate of a possible Assad government. What's the
actually,
difference here?
Yeah, the difference is Bashar al-Assad didn't want to listen. The Russians said, "Hey, we'll help you. Let us come in and assist."
Yeah.
And Assad said, I don't. You're not old enough to remember, Natalie, but in the '60s, there's this television commercial for Excedrin, and as part of it, there was a mother talking to her daughter, and the daughter would go, "Mother, please, I'd rather do it myself." Well, that was Syria, okay? They told Mother Russia, we'd rather do it ourselves. Well, that didn't turn out so well. Iran, in this case, they had actually told Russia something similar prior to the 12-day war in June. Russia had offered a military alliance, and the Iranians said, no, we'd rather do it on our own. On June 25th, when that war came to an end, that brief conflict, Iran went back to Russia and said, hey, guys, that offer you made, that sounded really good. Let's do that. And so what you've had since then is extensive cooperation between Russia and China. So Iran is actually in a much stronger position now than it was, say, on June 12th of 2025.
Now,
a lot has changed in 7 months. Iran was already hell to deal with then, but they had flaws. Okay. And it's the Lord, it's the will of the Lord. Because, brother, matter of fact, let's get this these precepts, We're gonna get that second Esdras too, because I got some more concerns that, the dragons of Arabia. Okay. But I just want to get to the point. This is the brother spiritual arc 144, Ezekiel 38:4. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Okay. And when you put hooks, in the jaws of an animal, that showed that you had complete control, to control that powerful animal. Okay. Because no matter how strong that animal was, he would still be sensitive to them nerves. Okay. And you will be able to control them. So it's the Most High that's wielding the power of Russia. Okay. And causing these nations to come under their banner of Russia, their chief prince. Okay. And we're going to show you, Russia intervened, okay, in the situation as well. Okay. So this is what we're seeing playing out, Ezekiel 38:4. And it all leads to them small heads being obliterated and America becoming the desert, man. Okay, verse 35, it says, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Okay. So Iran, which is Persia, the Lord calls it with this 12-day war. See, the Lord is making moves to put everybody in position, because Iran and Russia had, military alliances before that 12-day war in June. But after that 12-day war, it became way tighter. Okay. And then this latest thing with Venezuela, okay, with China been getting oil from Iran. But since now they can't get Venezuelan oil, now they have to get more oil from Iran, which makes Iran more valuable to Russia and China. Okay, so the Lord is putting all these plays together according to his will. He's putting everybody in place. So now when Iran is attacked, okay, Russia and China are front line to defend Iran. Okay, which is going to turn this thing into, all right, a very destructive, okay, World War III, man. All right, not just saying that this is going to happen, before the weekend is out, no, but we're seeing all the pieces being put in place. Okay, it's a build up, just like you watch, the Game of Thrones. Okay, every move that was made from season 1 in the Game of Thrones, it played a factor to the last episode in season 8. Okay, every move was connected. All right, it was part of an algorithm to lead to a certain outcome. Okay, so we're watching, okay, real life Game of Thrones, and moves are being made that's factored into the final outcome. Okay, so it says, Verse 6, it says Gomar, which is Turkey, okay, which is Turkey being mentioned. Turkey told America, like, look, y'all can't operate from here. You know, America like that street nigga, that wild ass cousin that can't stay nowhere because he got so much shit going on. Like, nigga, you cannot stay here, nigga. I know I had certain cousins that can't even get in the car with me. I for damn sure not get in the car with them niggas, man. Because they got so much shit going on. Okay. And it says, Gomar and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Okay, so Russia, is going to play a major part, in these nations, okay, being gathered to come against the West. Okay, and we see the Lord making moves that's pushing these nations further into the banners of Russia, coming under the Russian banners. Okay, so let's play this some more.
Can I ask you, Lindsey Graham took to X and said, oh, this idea that our Arab allies have intervened on behalf of Iran is beyond disturbing. Now, when something disturbs him, I usually am for it. That's my general rule. But is he thwarting something? Does Lindsey Graham know anything? Or do we have to worry about what this bloodthirsty demon wants to happen?
Yeah, no, I think it actually corroborates the other press reports you guys were citing at the outset that in fact these Arab nations did tell Trump, hey, you can't use our airspace. You're not going to do this. One of the things that both China and Russia have brokered in the course of the last 2 years was a new alliance between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Previously, the Saudis were being used by the United States as a means to attack Iran, and the proxy war was being fought out in Yemen. But thanks to the intervention of Moscow and Beijing, you now have Iran. The defense minister from Iran has visited Saudi Arabia, vice versa. President Pezeshkian has met with MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. So they recognize they are not enemies.
You see that? So Russia, being the chief prince, okay, is using diplomacy to, create relations between the Saudis and Iran, which is going to play a part, okay, as the brother got, the beloved brother Azariah, Shalom, bro, Yahbashim al-Shabrakatah, Shalom, Yahbashim al-Shabrakatah, to all you brothers, adding to the live stream. So this is the brother Azariah, G, Must in the Truth, Orlando, 2nd Ezra 15-28. It says, behold, in horrible vision and the appearance thereof from the east. Okay, verse 29, it says, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots. You see, and the Saudis, they're the biggest. They buy the most weaponry and arms from the West. Okay, fighter jets and particular things. Okay, so the West is financing its own destruction. They're providing the means for their own destruction, man. Because their terrible vision gonna be a terrible vision to the West. You small hats, okay, and American forces in their region, okay. Because when the Saudis flip, that's gonna be a major loss. When Turkey and Saudi flip on the West, that's gonna be devastating strategically for this regional war. It's gonna be devastating, man. Okay. And it says, well, the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, and they which hear them, may fear, okay, and tremble. You see? Because the West gonna be finished, man, when the Saudis flip, and link up with, Iran and Russia. Okay. Verse 30 says, also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land, okay, of the Assyrians, man. All right, which is America. All right, American military, because I say these American military bases is an extension of America. Okay, and it's common knowledge that if America get out of pocket, those military bases are green light. All right, they're gonna be green lit. Okay, so let's continue on. But you see all the moves being made. You know, you see the Lord putting this thing together just as the prophecy say. You know, because you look at these things and you be like, damn, I wonder how Saudi and because it be tension. Because Iran, they Shiite. Muslims and Sunni and Saudis are Sunni Muslims, so you got their little rift. Okay, but it's the will of the Lord, so it don't matter. Okay, you could be a Buddhist and a Christian, it don't matter. Okay, at the end of the day, He is. That explains everything. Whenever we get into, a blank spot, hey, He is. Get fill in the blank where He is, and the Lord always is going to make His will come to pass. Even when we can't, see it. Just that faith that the Lord always make His will come to pass, man. So we're hearing more about Turkey and Saudi, all right, the dragons of Arabia being more Iran friendly. Okay, so let's play a little more.
As they were in the past. So, and the Saudis also, I think, are looking at it very practically. They are the largest producer in the world. They do like 10.4 million barrels of oil per day. Russia does 10.3 million barrels of oil per day. And if the Strait of Hormuz is closed,
Come on, man. Come on, man. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, it's a lock is buffering on me. Let's see.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
Appreciate it. Oh my God.
they've made it clear. We'll close those straits in a heartbeat.
From an intelligence perspective, what are you hearing that Israel would do next? Because we heard reports today, who knows if there's any truth to this being tied to some sort of a nuclear test at Dimona inside of Israel. We all pretend that Israel doesn't have a nuclear arsenal because
Dimona is what they told JFK was a textile factory.
Yeah. So there's reports of an earthquake from possible nuclear testing. I don't know if this is saber rattling on Israel's part. I don't know. But what are you hearing from an intelligence perspective that Israel would do next? I mean, if the United States and Israel cannot stop hypersonic missiles coming into Israel, and Russia is saying, don't even think about it, are we at a stalemate here?
No, because I think we're ultimately still going to attack. We are so gaslit in the West about Iran. I was on, and I'll tell you off air who it was, but I was in a conference call on Tuesday with a retired U.S. general, very respected, well-respected, knowledgeable guy. And he started describing why we needed to, why Iran had to be taken out, because it's killed thousands of Americans. So I started doing the research. The Iranian government, since 1979, the Iranian government is not identified as having killed one American. The Iranian government. Now, Iranian proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, they have killed, in terms of civilians, wait for it, the total number of civilians killed by these Iranian proxies, 100, less than 100. The number of soldiers, U.S. soldiers killed by proxies in Iraq in particular, is 1,000, less than 1,000. So what we're looking at total from Iranian terrorism over the years, less than 2,000 actual American fatalities. Now look at it from the Iranian standpoint. It was the U.S. that went to Saddam Hussein and said, hey, buddy, we'll provide you with all those precursor chemicals you need to make mustard gas. He did, and he killed at least 500,000 Iranians. So when you're weighing the total in terms of who's been killing more of the other side, it is the United States that's got the most blood on its hands, not Iran. And yet, we persist with this lie that Iran is a terrorist state. I challenge anybody, show me the numbers. I'm born and raised in Missouri. Show me state. Show me the actual numbers. Because in terms of attacks on Americans, what Iran has done, what those groups that they've supported, they've attacked military targets. And look, I'm not saying that I've supported their attack on the Marines like at the Marine barrack in Lebanon. But when you're wearing a uniform and you get to carry guns, that's called war. And even if it's an unconventional warfare, you're still a legitimate target. It's not like carrying a bomb into a pizza restaurant and blowing up a bunch of civilians.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and it shows you how, Western media, they can just make a villain out of nothing, as he actually, Larry Johnson went into the numbers, okay? And it shows you that the death toll from the American government, and they was killing a lot of Iranian civilians, in their war with Iraq, which America sponsored Iraq to go to war with Iran, okay? And see, America acts like no one has any reason, okay, to be against them. Like, it's just this hatred that comes because these people are, jealous of America's technology, and, they're just envious of, America, and, they just want to be, so it's like, nah, man, just because they push this narrative is that these nations just hate America because America is so great, it's so high tech, it's so advanced, it's so this and so that. So that's where the hatred comes from. And they just want to bring America down. Nah, man, America has been a complete goddamn demon to all these nations in the earth, man. A complete bully, destroying these people's economy, okay, funding wars against these nations, man, okay, causing civil unrest, okay. These devils, man, have done a lot, man. And then when these nations react one time, all of a sudden, Western media turns them into a villain. Okay, and the hell with, I say Iran, Russia, but then you got, hey, the truth is true. These nations in the East, they fight with honor, man. They fight soldier on soldier. Now you're gonna always have civilian casualties in war, okay, but they're not targeting civilians, okay. Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, they're not targeting civilians. They target, all right, military infrastructure and military personnel. Okay? But the small hats in America, they target civilians. They target civilians. They pummel civilians, man. Okay? They fight with absolutely no honor or no integrity, man. You see? And this is why we're finna see the Lord is finna allow these nations, okay, to mop the floor with America military, man. And you small hats. The small hats don't even factor. The only reason the small hats are so goddamn brave because they know they got America with them. If America stopped bagging the small hats military wouldn't exist Okay, them nations eradicate the whole IDF. Okay, Hezbollah in 2006. Okay, fought the IDF to a standstill. Okay, the IDF ain't nowhere near as tough as they be putting on. They just got them nukes and they got American backing. Okay, but if you took American backing from them small hats, they wouldn't survive out there. Okay, and the Lord set it up like that for prophecy to be fulfilled, where America would have to constantly, be a guard to them small hats. Which that's a trap. Okay, because the small hats gonna get America into this war, and it's gonna go bad. All right, so let's go from there. I got a couple more. So let's show you this guy here. Because that's why I say you never know, these devils might, still put a move. Okay, dealing with a strike. Okay, because you got this happening. So this is devil Netanyahu. Let's see what this nigga here. All right, because he's the instigator of all this shit that we see happening. Okay.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Let's take a look at this big breaking development. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's aircraft, Wing of Zion, has taken off from Israel.
Israel's official state aircraft, known as the Wing of Zion, has departed Nevatim Air Force Base.
If you've watched this region long enough, you learn to ignore the theatrical speeches and focus on the quiet, revealing logistics. Leaders tell the public to stay strong, but their real beliefs show up in what they move first, what they protect first, and how quickly they create distance between themselves and the danger they are helping to manufacture. That's why January 14th, 2026 hit such a nerve online. Israel's official state aircraft, the Wing of Zion, marketed as a kind of Israeli Air Force One, was observed leaving Israeli airspace and immediately lit up X feeds through public flight tracking chatter and rapid reposting. People weren't obsessed because they love aviation. They were obsessed because this is what elite when they sense the consequences of their own escalation might finally come home. And let's be honest about what makes this so infuriating. War criminal Benjamin Netanyahu has spent years cultivating a political brand built on permanent confrontation, an endless cycle where threat inflation justifies more militarism, more regional pressure, more preemptive logic, and more suffering that civilians inevitably absorb. Then, the moment the risk curve steepens, the first visible headline isn't how do we de-escalate, it's how do we secure the leadership's mobility and protect the VIP assets. That isn't courage. It's hierarchy, one set of rules for the public, another for the people who make the decisions. Like and share to help me out. Subscribe if you haven't already. The defenders will rush in with a tidy explanation. It's standard doctrine, it's a precaution, it's protecting a strategic asset, it's continuity of government. Fine, call it doctrine, but doctrine has politics baked into it. Because doctrine becomes a shield that lets the leadership class do what it always does. Secure itself first, then lecture everyone else about endurance, sacrifice, and patriotism. A viral picture which is not yet verified identified former PM Ehud Barak running to Ben Gurion Airport. This is exactly why the story exploded on X. Within hours, the same limited facts were being used to tell two very different stories. One side treated it like routine contingency planning. The other read it as what it looks like to ordinary people. When the people at the top think missiles might fly, they don't stand under the same sky with everyone else. They move, they hedge, they keep options open, and the public is expected to sit still and accept it as normal. Now add Trump into this because he's gasoline on an already burning street. Trump's political style has always been spectacle first, consequences later, threats, bravado, pressure campaigns dressed up as strength, and a constant appetite for escalation that plays well in sound bites and disastrously in real life. He treats war like a branding exercise, like a stage where he can project dominance, while the human cost is outsourced to soldiers, civilians, and entire regions that have to live with the aftermath. That is not leadership. That is recklessness with a microphone. And when you place war criminal Netanyahu's obsession with force next to Trump's showman militarism, you get a dangerous feedback loop. One side sells escalation as security, the other sells it as toughness, and both rely on the public to absorb the blowback. In that context, a high-profile government plane movement isn't just a flight path, it's a symbol of how these political figures operate when the drama they stoke starts to look real. To accentuate his thirst for war, he allowed the symbolic war trumpet to be blown at his Mar-a-Lago residence, even at a time of tension in the Middle East.
Let's break it down. So Reza Pahlavi.
So yeah, that's the latest dealing with that. And what you have Netanyahu, he's, reported leaving the country. Here it is. He's the instigator. Okay. He's the instigator of all this conflict in their region. Then he's out of there. Okay. And then you got Trump. He's using this as an opportunity to show strength, to show dominance. All right. And you got them two niggas together, man. One nigga impulsive and one nigga love the spotlight. Okay. And the appearance of strength. You see? And them two niggas together is going to be the recipe for disaster, man. Okay? So they put everyone else, okay, in harm's way with the moves that they're making. Then they get out the way, man. Esau is a coward of a leader, man. And what he's understanding now is he's seeing that these Gulf states are bagging away from, okay, these small hats in America. And then what's happening, Russia is getting more vocal. Okay, when it comes to Iran. Okay, so let's go here. Just dealing with the latest. All right, dealing with Russia say so in the matter.
The war drums are beating across the Middle East, and Moscow is now on the front line of diplomacy. In a high-stakes power move, Russian President Vladimir Putin has spoken directly to Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian as tensions threaten to spiral into a full-scale regional war. The Kremlin says the message was clear: de-escalation before the region explodes. But this was no isolated call. Just hours earlier, Putin was on the phone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, placing Russia at the center of a dangerous geopolitical triangle: Israel, Iran, and the wider Middle East. According to the Kremlin, Putin laid out Russia's firm position. Political and diplomatic solutions must replace missiles, airstrikes, and retaliation. Moscow is pushing hard for dialogue, stability, and security, even as the region teeters on the edge. This is crisis diplomacy under extreme pressure. With Washington watching, Tehran on edge, and Israel on high alert, Putin is positioning Russia as a mediator, a power broker, at a moment when one wrong move could ignite a regional inferno.
Yeah, man. So Russia, all right, Putin reached out, to Iran, and then he reached out to the small hats, man. And it said, the Kremlin said he let the small hats firmly know where he stand. Okay. So we just, going into these things, and it makes sense, with this backpedaling. Okay. So Russia called, BB, Putin called BB, and told that nigga where he stand. Okay. So I don't know what they thought before, him and Trump playing this you see this attack. Okay. They were trying to ride the wave on, they was power tripping and trying to ride the hype, the whole Venezuela thing. Okay. But nah, man, Putin reached out to that nigga, man. Don't tell him what Putin told BB. Because at one time, Putin wasn't answering that nigga calls, nigga BB. Okay. When Russia was, when things were tense between Russia and those small hats, because Russia gonna play a part directly in busting up them small hats too, man. Okay, because Ezekiel 38 leads Russia and those armies to the doorsteps of the state of Israel. You go down into that chapter. Okay, so let's go from there. So I'm just piecing some things together. I think it's one more video. Let me see what I got. Okay, two more. Let's go. All right, let's go here. Because like I said, the narrative of the protests and the regime change. Okay, it lost steam. When they shut down the Starlink. Okay, that lost steam, that narrative. Okay, so this guy here, it's a quick video, but he's gonna sum up, okay, the failure of that attempted, regime change through civil unrest. You know.
Jamil Aryan, he's the director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Sibhat Zaim University. He's here with us in the studio. Welcome again, Sammy. So we heard from our correspondent there saying Trump's tone has changed, but the Iranian government and the people of the country are still on high alert. And one would think that, as he said, just 6 months ago, there was the 12-day war. The people certainly have something to be concerned about, despite some people actually calling for foreign intervention.
Correct. But the main reason Trump backed off is because his plan backfired. He thought that he can actually have a regime change. I mean, that is the aim of Netanyahu and Trump right now. They had this aim back in June last year through a decapitation campaign that failed. This time around, they're trying to manipulate the currency, and that started on December 28th, was going to be followed by putting tariff about 25% in order to actually collapse the Iranian economy. But more importantly, they were trying to have agitators, thousands of them. They were provided with Starlink terminals, and the Iranians were able to find our way to actually capture most of these people and to confiscate almost 90% of these terminals. So the whole thing faded away. That would have been the reason why he would have interfered militarily. Donald Trump wants to change the regime on the cheap by not actually involving American troops, like how they did it in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they failed miserably. So he's trying to follow the Israeli lead of trying to do a regime change through these kind of tactics, but all of them have failed.
Yeah, so they going America and the small hats trying to go the cheap way. They were trying to avoid having to put boots on the ground. In their mind, if they can do a quick regime change and put a pro-American puppet, okay, pro-Western puppet into office, then they wouldn't have to put boots on the ground. No, you're gonna have to go over there. Okay, you're gonna have to go see about them. And the Lord making it to where ain't no other option, man. Okay, it's only so much the devil gonna be able to dance around what he got to do. Okay, and he gonna have to show the world. He gonna have to really go show the world how tough he is. Okay, these small hats in the American military, they gonna have to go show. Okay, now also too, what could happen? And they could get desperate sometime down the line and just do, a preemptive, strike, where they can use tactical nukes. Okay, and they can rock Iran because Iran capable of being rocked, but then that's not the end of it. You still got to deal with Russia and China, India, Pakistan. Okay, all these nuclear nations that, all right, that back Iran. Okay, so Iran is not the beginning of the end. It's just a piece of the prophecy. They're just a piece, all right, a chess piece on the board of the Most High. Okay, but we know that what they say, the Iran is going to come with great strength, like a wild boar. They're going to be hard to deal with. Okay, so even then, Iran still got to fulfill their role of being that wild boar and coming forth with great strength. You see, so all these little gimmicks, they're going to continue to fail. Okay, because now the Lord wants an all-out war between these nations. Okay, he doesn't want these gimmicks and regime changes and all this playing that Esau doing. All right, that nigga gonna have to really go to war. Okay, he been hyping up how strong he is and how weak Iran is. Well, nigga, go show it. Nigga, go show it. So let's go here. I got one more quick little clip. We get ready to close out. But this from this Iranian general. Okay. Well, this from this I think he's Yeah. So let's play this. They're going to translate in English what he's saying.
We strongly advise you to retreat immediately. Do not advance a single step beyond this point. If we really get going, we won't have any discussion about ceasefires and such.
Now listen what he said at the door. Because he referring back to that 12-day war. Okay? So he said, look, if we get going this time, don't talk about no ceasefire. You see? So he telling, Trump and BB, look, once we get going this time, don't have them folk call us about no ceasefire, man. You see? See, this is gonna be different. Okay. Let it play that again. So he come out the door. Because see the Lord got it to where they tired of playing with the West, man. These goddamn kids. Okay? These goddamn kids in the West, man. If a brother can put that Walter D. land when our prince is a child. Okay, when our king is a child. I think that's Ecclesiastes 10. You see? Trump and BB playing these childish games. This serious, man. Okay? So yeah, he told them, look, don't, we get going this time, man. Don't ain't no tapping out.
We strongly advise you to retreat immediately. Do not advance a single step beyond this point. If we really get going, we won't have any discussion about ceasefires and such. We are telling you quite frankly right now, these blows you have struck, these extensive damages you have caused over the past 50 years, all the decency and considerable patience we have shown, you are simply not paying any attention to it. If we were to once again find ourselves in that era of the Holy Defense, specifically the war from its second year onward, then you can be absolutely certain that very serious problems will emerge for you. You must stop right here, turn back. The Iranian nation is a highly discerning and noble people, not seeking war. But if it reaches a point where it becomes necessary to finish the task and other events unfold, we will still preserve our brotherhood and friendship with Saudi Arabia, with the Emirates, with Bahrain, with Qatar, with Turkey, and with Iraq. But no base of yours in these countries will ever be safe. They don't seem to realize that Iran is just like Russia's snow. The further Trump pushes forward, the worse his situation becomes. If he had only stepped aside after that 12-day war, he would have truly understood the real depth of this whole incident.
There you go. You see? And he said, look, Trump should have just fell back after the 12-day war. Well, going back with this nigga BB, and the scriptures say go not with a bold fellow, which both of these niggas are bold. Okay? But and then he named out all those different Gulf Arab states, was those dragons of Arabia. He said, look, we're gonna be good with them. But y'all bases in those countries not gonna be good. So it lets you know that they are already in talks, man. Okay? Because he let it know, like, look, we good with them. These different countries that y'all got these military bases in, we good with our brothers. But the military bases ain't safe. Okay, so that lets you know that they already been talking with all these different with them dragons of Arabia, as the prophecy say, man. Okay, so let's yep, let's go here. We can end it here, man. This is the book of Ecclesiastes 10-16. Remnant loyal to Yahushua. It says, "Woe to thee, O land." And see, and there's literal. Okay, when thy king is a child. Okay, so you look at the rulers of the West. You look at these niggas in the West, man. They move like children, man. Look how Trump talks and explains things in his interview and press conference, man. Okay, it's like the mind of a child. Okay, it said and thy princes eat in the morning. Okay, it's just some greedy niggas, man. They exist to indulge. Okay, they're not fit for rulership, man. They don't understand the responsibility that comes with rulership. Okay, so what we're seeing is a child that's finna get America nuked, man. Woe to the old land. And in this context, the land of America, man, because this child nigga, okay, that just out here wilding, this nigga BB that just out here wilding, okay, with this pump of being untouchable. All this is finna get America nuked, man. Woe to the old land. Okay, when these niggas get through playing all these games and gimmicks, okay, woe to the destruction to the old land of America, man. Okay, so I leave it there. It's always more to get into, but we're gonna continue to see. So these devils, they might fall back, and it might be from months from now before they make a move. Might be some weeks. We don't know. All right, they might take that off. They might fully get off that off ramp. Okay, because when we listen to Trump, the nigga got his signal light on. So we'll know in the time coming if he fully get off that off ramp. Okay, so Lord will you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified. Till next time I say shalom. Kwam Yashala Baba Ba Shalom.